Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 3, Episode 12, Juggernaut. And how could you drop an episode of anything on Disney Plus with X-Men 97 happening right now, call it Juggernaut, and not have this be in our heads?
Juggernaut, bitch!
This episode was a lot of fun, so let's break down all these Star Wars connections and animation details you might have missed in it. Okay, so we open with rain pouring over the Tantus base, almost as if to say those clouds that coated Pabu in past episodes have followed Omega in CX2 back to this unfortunate home. And notice how the rain is just falling in sheets, just as it did over the base on Kamino, which is fitting because Tantus is effectively the Empire's new private Kamino. Now, when Omega deboards the ship, it actually mirrors the scene that we saw when Omega returned to the Bad Batch following her escape from this very same base at the end of a different approach from earlier this season. The lighting and staging are all very similar, except in a different approach. Omega ran down the boarding ramp as she was so excited to be reunited with her family, who immediately embraced her. Now, she has to be pushed down the ramp by CX2, where she's then greeted by Hemlock. Hemlock leads Omega back through the facility, and we're reminded of Omega's daily routine from the season premiere. The animators put the camera low from Omega's height as they enter the lab and find not Nala Se, but Dr. Carr. Omega asks if she's really safe there, and Emery cannot honestly answer. So back on Pabu, Imperial forces are pulling back, but they continue to jam their comms. Crosshair, while clutching at his hand, hints that there might be a way to find the base after all.
Tantus isn't a place I ever wanted to go back to.
And if you listen closely a few seconds before this, we heard the icy Crosshair theme from Kevin Kiner echoing back in this moment.
I didn't say I know. There's someone who might have the coordinates.
Crosshair says that the past villain Admiral Rampart knows the location, as Rampart sent Nala Se to Tantus following the decommissioning of Tapoka City, the location of the cloning facilities on the planet Kamino. So Rampart was the admiral that was put in charge of Kamino by Governor Tarkin and oversaw the replacement of clone troopers with stormtrooper volunteers and recruits. After proving the effectiveness of this operation, Rampart was ordered by Tarkin to secretly destroy Tapoka City in the season 1 finale of Kamino Lost, as they had no further use for the clones, and the destruction of the city was later blamed on a cataclysmic storm. And during this time, chief scientist of the Kamino, Nala Se, was taken by Rampart to Tantus and forced to work on Project Necromancer. And then after this, Rampart returned to Coruscant, where the word of his actions on Kamino reached Senator Chuchi. And in the season 2 episode, Truth and Consequences, the Bad Batch recovered evidence of Rampart's involvement in the destruction of Kamino and played footage of the bombardment on the planet during the Senate hearing. And the Senate turned on Rampart, and he was thrown under the bus by the Emperor and by Tarkin, and Rampart was imprisoned, which is where he is now. But the Emperor ironically used his imprisonment and his vilification to pass the Imperial Defense Recruitment Bill that Rampart had been championing, ultimately leading to the full replacement of all clone troopers with stormtroopers. So since this guy had a heavy hand in destroying their original home, you gotta imagine they aren't very happy to see him again. He truly is the last resort. And so we learned that Rampart's being held in an Imperial labor camp, and it's just interesting that Crosshair used the word decommissioned when describing the Empire's actions on Tapoka City. In reality, Kamino is blown to smithereens, but they all know that, and Crosshair is just kind of still struggling to characterize the full scale of the tragedy that happened there. It's also interesting that Hunter and Wrecker and Crosshair are having this chat in this Pabu treasure vault, which also contains nearby Omega's plush doll and Tech's broken glasses, which Omega had placed there last episode. In a way, it's like the full team is still together. Or, you know, they keep showing us Tech glasses because he could be a clone assassin. Like, why can't this season move on from Tech? I get it. We all love Tech, but like, there's a reason we keep seeing clues from him. But you'll also notice on these shelves appears to be some kind of tank with 2 eggs in it that kind of looks like the egg tank backpack worn by Frog Lady in The Mandalorian season 2. But Fee shows up with AZ. Last episode, the assassin hacked her computer to find the encrypted coordinates that led him to Pabu, and I always thought it was pretty considerate of Fee to at least encrypt those coordinates. Like, it's her own private computer, and still she's like, you never know when someone could like sneak in here when you're getting a drink with your buddy. When they ask her how you got here without being seen by the Imperial blockade, she's like, I used that hidden cavern access while I docked my ship, which is like the same cavern that Asajj Ventress had landed a few episodes ago and the one the clone assassin used. You think at some point they'd be like, we should seal this off. Fee also says,
any friend of Brown Eyes is a friend of mine.
Ah, yes, Brown Eyes was Fee's pet name for Tech. She developed quite a crush on him in season 2's final episodes. And I feel like of all these characters, she seems to be like the least sad about him, but she is a badass pirate. You know, she's probably had all kinds of boyfriends in the past who got like killed, and she's just had to like cut her losses and move on. But you know, the joke with her calling it Brown Eyes recognize is that all the clones have the same exact eye color. But you know how I talked about the fact that, Tech's glasses are right there. We don't actually see them until the moment his name is brought up in this scene. And I'm telling you, we're not just getting all these shout outs just to be nostalgic or to pay homage. This show wants us to think about Tech for a reason. Okay, onto the Imperial labor camp on Aramis. From a vast sloped wall rolls an A9 turbo tank. These tanks were updated versions of the A6 tanks that were colloquially known as Juggernauts, and they were frequently used throughout the Clone Wars up until the fall of the Republic. They made several appearances in the Clone Wars series and in Revenge of the Sith. They were originally first designed for Revenge of the Sith, but we actually first saw the A9 in Rogue One at the labor camp on the planet Wobani. So we're seeing the transition from the Clone Wars era to the years of the Rebellion. So I'm betting that the Juggernauts were phased out of warfare use and then relegated to less hostile situations like prisoner transport, like they are here, to make way for things like AT-ATs or AT-ATs and their prominence in warfare for the Empire. The Juggernaut pulls up to the side of a massive mining facility, and I don't know if this observation's crazy, but if you remove all the scaffolding at the balconies, and when the Juggernaut parks, it kind of pulls up next to these giant treads that look similar to the treads of a sandcrawler. Even though we frequently see sandcrawlers being co-opted as a combination mobile home and trading post by the Jawas on Tatooine and other desert planets, they are primarily mining vessels. So I'm thinking it might at least be the same manufacturer. Rampart is berated by an Ugnaught for messing up the job. We've seen Ugnaughts in plenty of times. They're frequently in mechanical engineering roles because that is really their specialty. We saw the Ugnaughts in Cloud City in The Empire Strikes Back. I think this is the first time we saw Ugnaughts. And then of course we saw Nick Nolte's Ugnaught character Kuiil on Avarla 7 in The Mandalorian. He had a past with those kind of jobs and then retired to be like a herder and a farmer and a rancher. Rampart is a previous member of the Imperial elite, never bothered to learn a language outside Galactic Basic and has no clue what the dude is saying. And you know what? That's on Rampart. He's an admiral. He should know. Now in Fee's sitting area, I love how Wrecker gives a good boy pat to this droid after we saw him take the time to save Gonki last episode. I just love that he always shows some love to the droids. It's so sweet. Fee says that she paid off a contact to get the readout of the Aramis base, and I'm not sure who that would be. Like maybe Saw Gerrera and the Partisans, like they have all kinds of information, but I also don't know if they would charge her money for that information. They'd probably be like, hey, can we help pro bono? I was wondering if it could be someone in like Luthen Rael's spy network, or maybe just another pirate like Hondo Anaka. I just like pointing out that all of this is starting to happen around the same time as Andor and Rebels, or at least the years leading up to those events. We'd like to thank Clean My Phone for sponsoring this video. Clean My Phone is a brand new AI-powered app that can help you clean up your iPhone and iPad from the same people who make Clean My Mac. Clean My Phone is super easy to use and crazy fast. In just a few minutes, Clean My Phone goes through all the photos and videos on your phone and separates out duplicates, screen recordings, screenshots, and more so that you can get rid of gigabytes of stuff that you don't need. You can also use Clean My Phone to organize your photos into categories. The AI under the hood can pick out subjects like pets, travel locations, or stretches of time to make your library more manageable and easier to navigate. Clean My Phone can even help diagnose a slow network connection, so you can make sure you're not getting bogged down with needless traffic. It used to be the case that once your iPhone started filling up, you'd have to pony up for an annual iCloud subscription, which could be as much as $36 every year for 200 gigabytes of space. But a 1-year subscription to Clean My Phone is only $24.99. Give your iPhone or iPad the glow up it deserves by downloading Clean My Phone from the App Store today and try 3 days for free. Fee's stealth approach, it turns out, is to just turn off all of her electronics and drop her ship in freefall so that I suppose she would just look like falling debris. She jams her feet under what look like brakes, ensuring that they fall at full speed, and they plummet past some Imperial cargo transports. Because they're all in freefall, notice how they and all their detached helmets float in the ship, which is something that happens when you're in freefall. It's how when they shoot movie scenes of people floating in like weightless spacecraft, they put them in freefall. We saw this in Apollo 13. And there's a really cool animation detail on the Aramis surface. You can see what looks like an oil slick floating on top of the water in the background, because mines and oil wells have a history of contaminating nearby water sources in real life. This planet, along with that planet from Bad Territory, just do a really good job in showing how aggressive industrialization can have a disastrous impact on the environments of all these planets. Hunter, Wrecker, and Crosshair work their way up to the gate, hiding behind these barriers, which reminds us of the type of exercises clone troopers had to go through when they were still on Kamino. The clones easily overpower stormtroopers guarding a checkpoint.
Quiet as usual. Hopefully, next assignment we'll see some action.
Yeah, hopefully you two don't get reassigned to the Death Star. That'd be some really bad luck. They hack into the mainframe and they learn that Rampart is scheduled to return to the prison via a Juggernaut that will pass by their checkpoint. And there's just something classic Lucasfilmy about the bandits hijacking a big convoy while it's still in motion, like Indiana Jones catching the Nazi truck with the Ark of the Covenant in the back while it was still in transport. And I love this gag of the stormtrooper going up to the roof to check, and we don't even see what happens to that guy. We just see Wrecker suddenly appearing behind the driver. There's a real no ticket energy to all this, and I love it. Crosshair asks Wrecker if he remembers Plan 55, which which, after taking a long moment's consideration, he does. Now, of course, the plans of Clone Force 99 have just been a common running gag, as the Bad Batch has developed a series of plans for various scenarios, including a tragic Plan 99 calling back the sacrifice of Tech at the end of last season. But Plan 55 is something like, I'll breach the door, I'll immediately take stock of how many guards there are, and then aim my gun to the right, shooting the wall of the hallway that I'm entering from. The shot's gonna bounce off that wall, ricochet off yet another wall, and pierce through 2 stormtroopers at once, and then that shot will bounce off a pole, and then another wall, and then a second pole, and then the wall right above Rampart's head, and then into the back of the stormtrooper that was taking aim at Crosshair himself. So killing 3 stormtroopers with a single shot by bouncing the bolt off of 6 surfaces, not counting the 3 stormtroopers themselves as surfaces. So then Wrecker just shoots the final 2. I don't know how much of these bank shots specifically were part of Plan 55, but I assume the plan generally is just like first wave of extreme precision shooting, followed by a second wave mop-up cleanup job. Crosshair has done this trick actually a few times before. In the season 1 episode Return to Camino, he killed all 4 elite squad troopers with a single shot, and most impressively, he destroyed a whole squad of battle droids during the Clone Wars episode Unfinished Business by ricocheting a shot off of a series of mirrors that he placed. After struggling with his aim the entire season, this kind of seems like an especially impressive feat. Back in the episode Bad Company, AZ theorized that the problem with Crosshair's hand might be caused by psychological distress and not a physical ailment. I honestly think he just needs plans, you know? Tell me what the plan is and I'll deliver. Like, he kind of just needs to play from the list of greatest hits, and then he's good. Rampart greets Crosshair by his clone name of CT-9904, and I just think it's a great character detail that Rampart clearly has a great eye for faces and a great memory for names, yet still refuses to address the clones by anything other than their assigned birth designation. And yes, of course, this prison break reminds me of the prison break of Jyn Erso from Mobani and Rogue One, and including a mix of interesting other characters, including this Ugnaught, a Trandoshan, and this bald male human that I could be crazy, but I wondered might be a young Migs Mayfeld, Bill Burr's character, who later shows up in The Mandalorian as a criminal and prisoner in a work camp in the era of The Mandalorian. Now, the Warden, voiced by the always talented Steve Bloom, who voices Zeb in Rebels, is made aware of the transport, making an unscheduled stop.
Run a diagnostic on their comms.
Meanwhile, Rampart says he will only tell them how to get to Tantus after they get him off the planet. Hunter and the enemy Juggernaut play this game of chicken and total hall brawl toward each other on the bridge. Explosions rock the bridge and each tank, but Hunter quickly realizes that the Juggernauts are evenly matched with their weapons, so he goes through the wheels like Captain Miller and Saving Private Ryan going for the treads of the German tanks, and that's how the Bad Batch wins this hall brawl and totally leapfrogs over the other one. Rampart lunges for the gun, but Crosshair shoots it, and Rampart says, "Oh, please, you're not going to kill me," and Crosshair replies, "Not yet," before stunning him. Of course, Crosshair does have a history of shooting Imperial officers, so Admiral, be careful. The gunships chase the Juggernaut off-road, and Wrecker takes out one of these LAAT gunships with the Juggernaut's cannons with stormtroopers, disable the guns, and Hunter shakes some of them off, like Indiana Jones shaking off the Nazis from the side of the truck when he was behind the wheel. As they approach the end of the road, V swoops in at the last second, a move that feels pretty similar to Han Solo in the Millennium Falcon saving Luke during the trench run at the last second. Rampart says that no one knows the coordinates to Tantus, a frickin' liar, and it was designed that way. We've actually seen hints at this design in past episodes, like when Emery Carr had to meet Cad Bane in a secondary location to retrieve the kidnapped kid in the Identity Crisis episode. Rampart says he might know how to get around this though, and I feel like they're gonna have to use a clone assassin, right? Because clone assassins are planted in sleeper cells everywhere, but somehow they're just kind of programmed with routes back to Tantus. I feel like that might be how we learn that one of these clone assassins is Tech. So back on Tantus, as Omega's blood is tested and confirmed to be useful for M-count replication, on the screen are 9 test subjects, and Omega is just one of these 9. We met 3 others last week, and I assume one of these is a 4th with that young toddler that was brought by Cad Bane. Potentially there are 4 others to meet. Notice how they all have different head shapes. But one sad detail I want to leave you with, poor Jax, the Green Mary Allen test subject, unlike the other 2, is just trying to collect himself at his table, not even bothering with a puzzle. He's still recovering from the hurtful stunning he received 2 episodes back. I want to give a huge thanks to Noah Chen for helping write this video. Follow me at Erik Voss, subscribe to all 3 channels of the Rockstars Network. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.